Yes, of course. I mean, what? Look, we all know what happens during campaigns, okay? And during this is now becoming a big political fight. We blame Dick Cheney, we blame the Republicans. It was a huge mistake what we did before, obviously. Right now, we're in where we are. That whole part of the world is a huge player in the world of energy and energy supplies. We cannot walk away from it.
But if there is a blame game, it suggests there is a disaster.
What?
If there is a blame game going on between the parties, it suggests this is a gathering disaster, and that is exactly right. And no, I don't have the cure, and I don't know who's got the cure for how we get rid of that Shia caliphate.
It's going to become a pocketbook issue. You know that.
How much of a blame game is it when Cheney's op-ed was followed up by another op-ed by Rand Paul, which really representing the libertarian wing of the GOP, and Paul is making an argument against Cheney and basically an isolationist-style foreign policy, which is in line with what the administration is doing.
Okay. Issue 2, the fog of war.
We want to know who was behind it, what the motivation of the leaders and the attackers happened to be. There are still some unanswered questions. It was, after all, the fog of war.
U.S. Special Forces captured one of America's most wanted this week, Ahmed Abu Khatallah, a leading suspect in the 2012 Benghazi murders of Ambassador Chris Stevens and diplomat Sean Smith and Navy SEALs Tyrone Woods and Glenn Doherty. Khatallah was subject to rendition, captured in a daring covert operation, and is now being questioned on board the USS New York en route to the United States, where the Attorney General, Eric Holder, says Khatallah will be tried in a civilian court. Last year, Khatallah was charged with 3 federal crimes in connection with the Benghazi attack: murder, aiding terrorists, and a weapons offense. More charges are likely to be added. Question: is this a high-stakes trial for the Obama administration? Mort Zuckerman.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, who knows what's going to come out of this thing? This does not look good. Again, it's the whole way this whole thing was handled did not inspire the confidence of the country. Now to have all of this come out, I think is going to be a very serious issue.
What do you think,
The way the arrest was handled does not inspire the rest of the country. I think it was a pretty daring raid where they captured him.
It took months to get him.
Yes, and so after 2 years of the right grousing about Benghazi, now they're saying that the capture was timed to coincide with Hillary's book tour.
I think it's a big trial.
Yeah, but the point, and they want him to go to Guantanamo. There have been 0 convictions of terrorists coming out of Guantanamo. We have several high-profile terrorists in American jails for life. It's appropriate that he gets tried here.
Great. But it's only a massive circus trial if the administration wants to make it into one. There are far higher profile people in U.S. custody at Guantanamo, including Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the mastermind of another 9/11 attack that has still not been tried. He's being held and maybe going to be tried in this kind of fumbling military-style tribunal. So why not focus on that trial right now?
Why not focus on the guy we just caught?
How is it that Khatallah was walking the streets as an ordinary civilian for several, weeks before
question.
He was apprehended?
More than that, he was being interviewed by reporters and things. One of the arguments they give is, look, they wanted to find a time when this guy was isolated and alone, and they could take him out without losing the guy, and they could grab him without, alerting the Libyan government, all the rest of it. But it took something like 18 months to do it. But I think what they're going to get out of him is a lot of information, and I don't know that it's going to be a problem for Hillary Clinton, but there's a possibility this guy could say, we plotted this, we did that, was there any video anywhere around there? And it can only be bad news or nothing news for Hillary Rodham Clinton's ambitions.
Bringing him to justice is not, I don't think it affects Hillary one bit. And if it answers questions, puts things to rest, that's all to the good for her.
Is Khatallah in control of the narrative?
Not anymore.
You don't think so?
On that boat?
You mean they're going to get something out of him?
I think they've been talking to him for a long time, and he's probably pretty tired right now, John.
Tired is such a nice word.
Exit question. Considering all the possible outcomes of an open trial, on balance, is the apprehension of Ahmed Abu Khatallah a net positive, or is it neutral, or a net negative for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential ambitions? You're free to develop that a little bit, referring to her ambitions. And cannot be beneficial. It's neutral to negative, depending upon what this fella has to say. I mean, if he comes in
and it has nothing of relevance to say about people not coming to the aid and all the rest of it. But I think the only possibility is that it's negative.
I can't imagine he's going to testify that people didn't come to the aid. I mean, what would he have to say about that?
Well, you listen. Yeah. I mean, the point is, he might have said, we planned the attack and we did this, and they, says all these things we should have known about.
And everybody just sat on their rifles and just let us go in.
Why don't you comment more on the Hillary component?
I think Hillary is going to persevere through this just fine. And in terms of it being a show trial, we have the blind sheikh in jail, we have the shoe bomber, we have the Times Square bomber. Most Americans don't even remember these trials, so this is an appropriate use of American justice.
Does she have poll worries? The latest Wall Street Journal NBC poll shows as many people say they would never vote for Hillary as they say probably or definitely would vote for her if she runs for president. Is that a serious hurdle?
You only need 50 plus 1.
She's sinking.
She's going to do
sinking
fine.
in the polls, John, and been sinking for months.
She looks like she has a pretty clear field for the Democratic nomination. There may be some other contenders.
Is she on the...
Who are the Republicans going to put up? That's going to be a much more interesting primary race.
Is she a deeply polarizing candidate?
She is a deeply credible candidate.
Is she a shoo-in in your regard, in your view?
I think a Democrat is a shoo-in next time because the way the Republicans have handled a number of issues, including immigration.
It will be nice to see the Benghazi subject go into a trial in a court and hopefully not be politicized to the level that it has been under investigation in the House of Representatives over the last 2 years.
Dream on.
I think Hillary Clinton is about as slam dunk a candidate for the Democratic Party as you could ever imagine at this stage, number one. Number two,
mean she's going to win the election?
She's going to win the nomination. We don't know whether she's going to win the election. We don't know who the Republican is going to be. But I will say this. She will attract millions of people into her tent to vote for her because she will be the first woman to be nominated by either major party. And that's going to have an enormous appeal for a lot of people in this country. And she is a very credible, very talented lady.
All right, we've had universal insight already. Issue 3, Jay walks. White House Press Secretary Jay Carney was treated to music from his favorite band as he entered the briefing room for the very last time.
Now that is some good rock and roll. As if you didn't know. Well, thank you for that.
Mr. Carney's last day at that podium was Wednesday. The announcement of his leaving came as a surprise last month, made by President Obama himself, who suddenly entered the White House press briefing room to proclaim that Carney was, alas, moving on.
In April, Jay came to me in the Oval Office and said he was thinking about moving on, and I was not thrilled to say the least. But Jay's had to wrestle with this decision for quite some time. He has been on my team since day one, for 2 years with the Vice President, for the past 3.5 years as my press secretary.
And there was a hug between Barack and Jay. Mr. Carney said he had no immediate career plan. On Wednesday of this week, he thanked the White House correspondent, with whom he often wrestled.
So, finally, I just want to say thank you to all of you here. This has been an extraordinary experience, and I have loved every minute of every day, even the many minutes of many days I've spent in this room. As I think most of you now understand and believe, it's always a pleasure, no matter how hard it can get in here, how hot it can sometimes be, and contentious it sometimes is.
Then a final wave to the press corps.
Thank you, sir.
Question, as Jay Carney slips back into oblivion, will he take his chair on the McLaughlin group, from which he left to go to the White House, in order to restore his ego?
John,
or should he?
I think Jay Carney did a tough job. He did a workmanlike job, and it was very rough. It's not like the days of Jim Haggerty and Pierre Salinger in the old days when sort of you had older journalists, was much more respectful. It's a very rough situation. It's been that since Ron Ziegler, our friend, was in Nixon White House. And it's very tough on these guys, and I tend to agree with Eleanor. Some of the best were, Jody Powell's one of the best. He's no longer with us. And Mike McCurry was outstanding, I think, and Marlon Fitzwater. And some of those folks, they've been very good, and it's a very tough job. And I admire the guys that can go out there and take it, because I was offered a post like that, and I lasted about 24 hours with Richard Nixon in New Hampshire.
Do you know of any press secretary who did a biography of his boss? Press secretary in the White House.
Ron Nesson, did he write a book on Ford, I think? Did he, Eleanor?
He probably did, yeah. But who could say anything negative about Jerry Ford? Everybody loved Jerry Ford, even though he was never finally elected president. I think he had the widespread admiration from the press corps, definitely.
I think Larry Speakes wrote a book, but it was about his experiences and Reagan.
And to say something about Jay, I can't remember a single gaffe that he made, and that is really something. When he's up on that tightrope every day in front of television cameras, and he kept his cool most of the time.
He did the show somewhat regularly, and he went from here at the request of the vice president. He worked for the vice president 4 years before he went to work for the president.
Biden.
That's right.
5 years?
4 years for Biden, yes.
Yeah, 4 years for Biden. So that was a great source of preparation.
But he had the right temperament. He's very knowledgeable of politics. He had a wonderful temperament. You know, it was very hard to for him to get involved in a fracas with the press and vice versa. So he was the right person for that job at the right time.
And I don't know that he slips into oblivion. I mean, he's been rumored that he might be named as ambassador to Russia. I don't think that's going to happen.
You mean the Russian? Yeah. Well, he brought that up at a Christian Science Monitor breakfast.
He speaks.
And he said that he turned it down. But he did.
He was offered it.
He was offered it.
My goodness.
Wow. Well, that's impressive that he turned it down.
It's a major loss for this administration. He's one of the few people in the strategic communications team at this White House that knew what they were doing.
Well,
period.
he was a reporter for Time magazine, so he had.
I would say
how you replace that and where it goes from here for the next 2 years.
Josh Earnest is a fine replacement, and he's already got the respect of the press corps. So let's give him a good chance.
Remember, Richard Nixon built that briefing room. Remember the old thing was in the West Wing of the White House. You know, it was all there, and had those old guys sleeping in there and playing cards and drinking. And Nixon built that thing in the old White House swimming pool, which Jack Kennedy, I think,
unfortunately,
Johnson made
unfortunately,
famous.
he didn't buy off the press corps. False predictions. Should the Redskins and will the Redskins change their names?
No, they will not.
Yes, double yes.
Yes. Double yes?
Yes, they'll have no choice. They're going to change their name.
Yeah, but not soon.
Oh, no, I'm not predicting that.
At a future date. Bye-bye. They'll change.